So the first piece in this is to find your purpose. Depending on what it is that you are looking to achieve within your organization, that's what you've got to look at to implement in terms of templates, for example, or some sort of tracking. And so while a PMO can enforce the standards and enhance policies and procedures, again, having that set of templates to maintain consistency is key. Having things like templates, for example, will allow you to define a set of key baseline criteria so that you can save time, simplify document creation, in turn increase productivity, and then provide oversight into the delivery of the projects. So again, really thinking about what your purpose is, what you want to get out of the system is a key to what you put into the system. So project templates here, generally we recommend that, as you can see here, that a separate stage is set up for the project templates so that you've got those dedicated templates in there. You can keep the constants across projects. You can make those specific to your offerings. So if you have a template for a release management or a template for outsourced administration training, you can set those up as they should be copied and pasted, if you will, from project to project. And it keeps those constants. So things like your phase and task structure, things like billing rules. While the actual billing rules may vary from project to project based on just different budgets that you've got, or maybe you've got some funky one-off, something different from another project, you can at least put in the template for the billing rule and then modify any sort of fixed amounts. Once you've got templates set up, or at least projects from which you've indicated that they can be copied or duplicated, then you would take the option here with the green plus sign and select, rather than just select a new project, you would select new from another project. So these are just a couple screenshots of what it looks like when you are using the duplicate another project and setting up a new project if you're not already familiar. One of the options on the project properties form is to select which template or which project from which you want to duplicate the phases and tasks. Again, keeping those phases and tasks consistent allows you to do things like time studies, allows just that consistency amongst projects too, so that when staff are entering time, the time logged to project A compared to time logged on project B, they're seeing the exact same tasks and or phases, potentially with minor tweaks, but they are seeing those same ones, and allows for more consistent and reliable data reporting there. And so you've got the option to set different items as your defaults, or you can pick and choose which things you want to duplicate, whether you want to duplicate the billing rules, the recognition rules, the project budget, any sort of dashboard settings, any sort of auto bill settings. You've got the option there to select which to move from. And so that's setting up a project template, and probably the most simple, straightforward template to be set up. Oops. The next piece is form permissions. Actually, I just realized I didn't have this on full screen. The next piece is form permissions. These allow you to modify the visible information on a given form. So for those of you who have worked with form permissions before, you've probably seen that how powerful those can be, and you can generally get pretty creative with those. You can do things as simple as role-based permissions. You can get into more complex permission roles as well. The form permissions are accessed via the dialog box on the left-hand side, and I'll show you in a moment, and are available on various forms throughout OpenAir. So again, this dialog box up here on the left-hand side, if that particular form will allow for a modification to it or any sort of updates to it. Most of them do. You'll see the option here to modify form permissions. When you go into the form permissions, then you can see the option, which will, again, it will display when they're available. You can look at items via the role. So across the top, you've got the different roles. Here in this screenshot, I just was able to capture admin and user. But you've got the different roles. You can do things such as hiding or disabling or showing a delete or a save button. You can make various fields on that particular form required by that particular role. You can make them read-only, or you can hide them altogether. So if you just don't want a particular role to see a field or even a section of fields within that page, you can edit those. And those are, again, the most basic options. The navigation panel over here on the left-hand side will tell you where you're at. Some of the other things, too, if you wanted to put a form message, so maybe like a reminder up at the top of the page, you can put a reminder and say, hey, you've got a warning. You need to remember to fill out X, Y, and Z that shows up there. Permission rules allow for more complex setup, such as if-then statements. So you can get quite creative with these, and you can get really quite complex if you want to, depending on your needs. And this, again, will template those forms and tailor them to a particular role. As we saw before, here in the permission rules, you can get that much more detailed and base things off of department, base things off of various drop-downs related to that particular item that you're changing. So in this instance, I'm changing project-specific details. So what you could do in as examples, you could tailor fields to be completed for team members or for departments. So if you only wanted certain team members or certain departments to see certain options, you can limit the values. And if you want to, you really streamline what it is that they're filling out on a particular page, you can make that set of information available accordingly. For a status report, this is getting a little bit more complex in terms of the configuration, but still it's not too bad. Some things you can do here with a status report. This is a set of configurations here that you can create. For example, I've got here a red, amber, blue, red, amber, green report, a brag report, which I know is very common with a lot of folks. And in this particular instance, we've repurposed the project issues module and use a number of form permission and rules along with the custom fields to get, there's several other fields on this page, but this is just an example of how you can create a status report. And then you've got a centralized tracking method within OpenAir, within the system that the staff are already using today. So that's one, and then this information will feed into reports. So again, those are just some of the types of templates that can be created. Communication. We've got our templates in place. We want people to make sure they're documenting accordingly. Let's make sure we're communicating consistent information back to them. So in addition to having those, staff can be notified in this example here when a budget is at a certain percent. So here I've got quite a number of configurations I can do with these project alerts where I can notify folks only on a certain day. I can notify them every day, or as soon as it hits 90% in this example, I can exclude certain tasks. There are, again, several other options for configuration that didn't quite make it to the screenshot because I couldn't get everything in there. But you can filter by project stage, the actual project. So if on only certain projects you need to be notified of a particular budget, you can do that as well. And this really just allows for the proactive monitoring at certain thresholds or, again, on specific projects in specific instances. Notifications Again, those notifications can also be set up to notify when a project stage changes. Something like this might be helpful when you're going from a pending stage to an active stage and you want to notify that project owner, for example, or a particular person outside of that project owner to let them know that a project is maybe moving from pending to active. Maybe you're just waiting on a contract signature. Now the work can begin. So that automated notification that comes through the system, again, reducing any sort of duplicate effort and allowing for more proactive notifications and work getting started. These particular notifications I've got pulled up here are set up from within the administration module. You can also set up, depending on the module, you can set up some notifications from within that as well. And you can do booking requests or booking notifications as well if you wanted to notify the project team members that they've been assigned to a particular project, or if you needed to notify the project manager that a certain person has been put on there. And then obviously reports. I think we're probably not going to get through any webinar without talking about reports, because with any data that you put into a system, getting out quality information is really going to be your ultimate goal. Otherwise, the question is, why are you putting it in? If you're not doing anything with the reports or that data, again, I'd say ask yourself, what's the purpose of collecting that information? So here, for example, I've got those status notes in that sample template I had. I've got a snapshot of a report that I can see. I don't have to go and compile anything else outside of the system. I've got that right here based on information that's being entered. I can set up this report to email out to certain folks on a scheduled basis. Or what I can do is I can set up a dashboard where folks can run that information on demand and look at that report 5 times a day if they want, or if they want to look at that report every single day, they can look at it there too. And then in summary, again, I would reiterate to find your purpose. What problem or problems are you solving for? Working to configure OpenAir to support those goals then. Again, OpenAir has several options to meet a variety of PMO needs, and there's really not a one-size-fits-all. So what's best practice for one organization might not work well for another organization, and vice versa. So making sure that you, again, keep going back, what problem specifically are you trying to solve for? And then identifying that level of flexibility that you need to embrace and the level of dynamic configurations within OpenAir.